everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In case you haven't figured out by now, my name is Shell and I am a cosplayer. This video has been in the works for a while now. If you follow me over on Instagram, you'll know that already. I wanted to take my time with this video because it's a very serious topic and it's one that I'm not approaching lightly. Today I'm going to be talking about why I personally do not support another anime convention, also known as AAC. This is a small local con in the New England area that's operated out of New Hampshire and Massachusetts for quite a few years now. I have attended it once personally and didn't have the best experience. This past year for their 2019 convention, I figured that I would see what other people's experiences were going to the convention, and if it had improved since I went in 2018, I would maybe give it another shot. Unfortunately, conditions did not improve. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I have previously made a vlog that is still up on my channel of when I attended AAC in 2018 and what my experience was like there. Because I posted that video, I feel like I have a responsibility to address the full context of the situation and tell people explicitly, not just on Instagram but also here on YouTube, why I choose not to attend this convention anymore. So let's start with my experience when I attended personally in 2018. In 2018, it was my first ever AAC. I was very excited to go and see a lot of friends, and I was planning to only purchase a tent badge, which was an option on their website. So this was a badge that would solely get you into the dealer's room, and it didn't specify any other stipulations besides, you can't attend panels or game shows or things like that. So I was cosplaying as Diana from Little Witch Academia, and to my great surprise and gratitude, the cosplay was really well received. A lot of people asked for photos. I actually even got asked for interviews with press who were there. I had already purchased this tent or dealer's room badge, as well as my friends. We were sitting in a main lobby area of the hotel by the registration tables where we had purchased the badges, and just sitting quietly and talking. And a staff member or volunteer approached us and said, "Oh, you can't be in this area because you have the tent-only badges." And we were like, "Oh, okay." So we moved outside, we ended up going back to the tent area, back into the dealer's area, and it was fine. No one else said anything to us, no one else made any remarks, it was just all right. Later in the day, maybe an hour or so, we were in a different part of the hotel. It was still the main lobby area, but because of the setup, there was the main lobby right by the front doors of the hotel that also led out to the dealer's room. So there was dealers in the front entrance. And then the place where we had been before by registration was further in the center. And that was where more of the panels and events were happening, so we interpreted the staff member who had approached us as saying we couldn't be in this panel-centric area where the programming was happening. So we had moved to the main lobby of the hotel by, the front desk and the little convenience stands and just a ton of people just hanging out. We were sitting together off to the side, not making, a fuss, not being loud, not being disruptive, just quietly talking amongst ourselves, when the same staff or member or volunteer approached us again and said, "You can't be in here, you only have the tent badge." I remember being confused because no one had told us, either on the website or before we purchased the badge in person, that we could only be in the tent. It was literally a tent in the parking lot outside of the hotel, and it was 29 degrees Fahrenheit out that day. There was snow on the ground. It was freezing. So the thought that someone would only be allowed to be in a tent was ludicrous to me. Besides that reason, we were in the main lobby, not causing a disruption, not looking at any panels or programming or anything, just talking amongst ourselves in the main lobby. Who kicks someone out of a hotel lobby? It made no sense to me that we wouldn't be allowed there. We were just sitting amongst ourselves because outside it was freezing. We had paid to be there, we had bought the tent badges. I knew people who were there who had bought no badge whatsoever, and they had nothing said to them. This is where I feel it's important to, put out there that we were a group of young, feminine presenting persons. This was a male staff member or volunteer who addressed us. And he then, after he told us that we couldn't be in this area either, proceeded to follow us out as we exited the hotel entirely. If I could go back in time, I would not have left. I would have stood my ground and asked why we weren't allowed in this area. I would have asked to speak to other staff. I would have asked why I wasn't told about this policy before I had purchased the badge in the first place. But I was young and I was freaked out, and I was more concerned with the well-being of my friends than trying to get justice for myself, so I kind of ushered us all out of the hotel. Because it was 29 degrees out that day, we proceeded to spend the next hour sitting in my friend's car in the parking lot, because it was that cold. The reason why this situation left such a bad taste in my mouth was because that was the only staff member or volunteer who had spoken to us about the tent badges being restricted in this way the entire day. Other staff members were coming up to us and complimenting our outfits and taking photos. We had been doing interviews, and we had essentially been promoting the convention to these media outlets. And yet this person who was part of the convention was trying to kick us out of it. I don't believe that the tent-only badge restriction was actually a policy of the convention, because no other staff talked to us about it. I believe this one male staff member really wanted a power trip that day and saw us as the easy targets. After my experience, I tried to reach out to staff in some way and wasn't able to, because they had no contact information listed on their website. They had no feedback forms on Facebook or their website. And I ended up leaving a review on Facebook that detailed my experience letter for letter and never received a response. I wanted to ask if that was the actual policy and confirm if I had done something wrong, but there was no contact information for staff members or security or people who handled guest relations on their website. I couldn't find anything. The most frustrating thing about all of this was that I couldn't get an explanation for it. Now I finally did in September of this year. A year after the convention ended, a personal friend who just so happens to be on AAC staff saw my story and reached out to me and apologized and said, "What happened to you wasn't right." It was so reassuring to finally hear that from AAC staff directly, that I had been mistreated. But it was so far past the actual event, it felt so hollow in a way. This wasn't staff reaching out to me as an attendee of the convention who was mistreated. This was a friend who just happened to see me talk about it and said, "I'm sorry, that shouldn't have happened." If this friend had not seen that post, I would have never gotten an apology from any AAC staff. I just wouldn't have. So in terms of the issues I have seen with AAC, both personal, my experience, and other people's experience that they have told to me directly, I label my experience under staff and volunteers mistreating attendees. Unfortunately, my experience of that happening is not the only one. And this is where I'm going to get into info that I have been told from other people directly. So I put up on my Instagram story that I was frustrated by my experience at AAC. Once I did that, I had a lot of other people messaging me and coming to talk to me and share their own experiences. So the experiences I am going to say now are all anonymous. They are not my own. So in the same vein of staff members and volunteers mistreating the attendees at AAC, at this past convention in 2019, a staff member at the registration desk used an attendee's dead name after being asked not to, and insisted that the dead name must be on the con badge. This, I can tell you right now, is a load of BS. You can write anything you want to on your convention badge. Every single convention I have been to, you can write whatever you want. That includes AAC. Other issues with badges include an instance in 2018 when a person went to the convention and expected to buy a youth badge. Not only were they denied the opportunity to purchase a youth badge, but the price was different than as stated on the website, and they were denied a parent in tow badge, which AAC has offered for years and greatly advertised. A parent in tow badge has been marketed from AAC as a badge that a parent can get who is attending with a youth attendee, so they can supervise them and still be with them throughout the convention. AAC has marketed itself as a family-friendly con since nearly the very beginning, and the fact that they not only misstated the youth badge qualifications on their website, but also the parent in tow badges, really goes against that policy. There were even more inconsistencies in their policies on their website versus at the convention. Someone reached out to me saying that at the 2019 AAC this past month, the online masquerade rules stated that only original choreography could be performed, and they emailed the staff to reach out and confirm that these were the rules. However, several of the winners of the masquerade were performing not original choreography. Moving on to perhaps the most disappointing thing I've seen come out of AAC, I'm going to talk about sexual harassment. So at this past 2019 convention, a friend reached out and told me about their experience being sexually harassed at the con and how there was nothing done about it. Essentially what happened was this. A male attendee was dressed in a Rule 34 costume. If you don't know what Rule 34 is, please don't Google it. It's pretty nasty stuff. I will summarize it for you here. It's the idea that if it's on the internet, it can be sexualized. So obviously that's not great, because that means any content whatsoever, even if it's like for very young children, is going to be sexualized. So this guy was dressed in a Rule 34 costume. According to the friend who reached out, this was basically a white bodysuit and a paper mask. And this man was not just dressed in that, frankly, very inappropriate costume at a family-friendly convention. He was following around other cosplayers and other attendees. He would stand in front of them, behind them, and ask them if they got the joke. And he kept approaching attendees multiple times after they repeatedly told him that they were not interested and they wanted him to go away and they didn't enjoy his behavior. This was all reported to staff. From what my friend heard from staff said they weren't going to take any direct action with this man in this costume, but they would have a staff member in cosplay follow him incognito and make sure he was behaving correctly. So here is the problem with AAC's response to this issue. 1, this guy's costume should not have been allowed at a family-friendly convention in the first place. 2, he was deliberately following and harassing people, multiple people, around the convention. That is inappropriate behavior. It is not safe for members of our community, and we do not want to be depicted as people who follow people around. 3, this behavior is not only harassment, it is sexual harassment because of the nature of his costume. One quote is that this guy would yell at people as he was walking away, "You are not exempt from Rule 34. This man was reported to staff multiple times by multiple people. Security was called, and security asked the people who had been harassed if the man had touched them unwantedly or taken photos of them. He had not done either, so they said no, and security said, well, there's nothing we can do about it then. The thing is, though, harassment is a lot more than just touching people or taking photos of them. This took place on Sunday of the convention. There is absolutely no reason why AAC could not have expelled this man from the con, said you are no longer welcome here because of your behavior, or revoked his badge. And to confirm that there is no reason why they couldn't have done those things, I pulled quotes from the rules section of their own website. Their rules section states that failure to follow the rules may result in loss of badge and expulsion from the convention. Another anime convention reserves the right to remove anyone in violation of these rules. AAC's rules say, please treat each other with respect. We are all here to enjoy ourselves. They do not say what treating each other with respect means. Every convention has rules and regulations. It is what makes them run smoothly and what allows them to control disruptful behavior. However, AAC does not have any lines in its rules defining what disruptive behavior is and what the consequences for that is. And this is crazy to me because you know what is in their rules? An entire paragraph about how much of your butt you have to cover. The butt must be covered from the top of the intergluteal cleft to 2 inches below bottom of the cheek. The full curvature must be covered. How does a convention with this specific of a policy about your butt not even have guidelines about harassment? Now, you've heard the experiences, you've heard mine, you've heard others. Why does all of this matter? Why am I making this video? These conventions are entertainment events that people pay to attend. Paying customers deserve better treatment than a convention allowing a known harasser to continue harassing other attendees. No convention should tolerate harassment of its attendees, especially one that touts being family friendly. Allowing harassment and harassers to fester at these conventions gives us all a bad reputation. I have no plans to attend AAC anytime in the near future. That doesn't mean I wouldn't consider attending again, but there needs to be significant improvement to their policies and their actions. After hearing these experiences and sharing my own, I created a list of specific tasks I think AAC should pursue in order to improve their convention as a whole. The first item is to create specific policies on harassment, including clear repercussions for people who violate those policies. Having a clear policy on harassment will dispel any confusion about what is harassment and what security and staff members should do about it. In that same thread, I also wrote that AAC should ensure that all staff and volunteers understand how to respond to reports of harassment. AAC also really needs to list clear contact information on their website. As I said, one of the most frustrating elements of my entire experience was that I couldn't find anyone to reach out to talk to about it. Last but not least, I suggested that AAC should create an online survey to release at the end of each convention so attendees can easily and safely provide feedback in an anonymous format. I actually told this to the staff member who was my personal friend who reached out to me, and that was implemented after this 2019 convention. So I'm glad that that's happened. It's a big improvement. It's an important way to let attendees have a safe and anonymous way to share what has happened to them at the convention and whether or not they had a good or bad experience. So that's why I don't attend AAC. I have just seen so many problems arise with this con and so few of them be addressed that until they make significant changes and improvements, I don't feel comfortable or safe attending their convention. I am just one person and my experience is not yours. I encourage you to share your own experience in the comments below if you enjoyed or didn't enjoy AAC. I encourage you to look at AAC's website or Facebook page and gather more information before you make a judgment yourself based solely on this video. I know this was a heavy topic, so thank you for making it this far, and I hope you go on to have a great day. Bye!